Oh my god, it's a bonus YARP. Holy shit, and that's Jake right there.
Yes, it is I. It's been like a year.
And oh my god, we've got somebody new. Who is this new stranger that has appeared before us?
It's Ninja. Say hi, Ninja.
Oh.
Hello.
Welcome to the channel as always, Ninja. The
I
reoccur-
do appreciate being a reoccurring guest.
Yes.
and also someone who hasn't been here before.
Are you,
The
you
other
gonna say my
person.
name?
Oh, I was hoping you would introduce yourself.
No, I can introduce
Rude.
myself.
Introduce the
Yeah,
guest. God.
my name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I'm a huge science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. So I love talking shit about 40K and other related nerdy things.
Yes, and this has been an episode that I've been planning for like a few weeks now. Actually, while we've been doing the Tarantino arc, we've been covering. We've been watching all the Warhammer TV shows. We specifically watched Exodite, all of Hammer and Bolter that's been released so far, and Angels of Death. And I was going to say, would everyone like to bring up how much knowledge of the 41st millennium they have, or get straight into it?
I guess I would like to say I know more than now than I did like a few weeks ago, which was nothing.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the new guy, although
Yeah.
although now you got beaten out by Ninja, who knows very little, right, Ninja?
Oh, I will take it one step further. Not only do I know very little, but so far, what I have seen, I have been unimpressed.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we're starting off in a hole for me. Like,
Listen,
got-
I'm just gonna say this. Horace was right when he said that taxes could have been the end of the Imperium. That's all.
So, uh, and Connor, how long have you been into 40K?
I've been into 40K since probably 2003. And what happened was I went to the local library and somebody had left an Assassin's Codex there. And I lost my mind kind of looking over the artwork. And then I literally just found, organizing my office, I found my Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Drukhari Codex from 20 years ago. And I've been reading like codexes, battle reports, kind of like random lore stuff, random model stuff. But I couldn't really afford to get into the hobby, so I only really like saw one game when I was in high school. And then I stopped, I did hardcore shit for a while. I did, 4 years in the Marine Corps, 4 years in law enforcement. And then I finally got done with that. And I was like, oh shit, I can afford Warhammer miniatures now. So I've been buying, painting, building, kit bashing models for probably 4 or 5 years now. And it's been awesome because I came back during 8th edition.
Oh, nice. So right as Primaris were coming out.
Personally, I think that while I very much enjoyed the lore and the backstory and all that stuff, I would like to have kids one day, and I don't want to be in bankruptcy before that happens. So I think I might not buy all the miniatures and stuff.
I'm not planning on having kids.
To buy the miniatures.
Yeah, I got into 40K lore wise. I got into 40K quite a while ago, just because it was just a very interesting universe and had a lot of memes. But what finally got me into like things like the tabletop was, of course, Star Wars being burned down right in front of me. A progression that you, Ninja, you've just been watching me just ascend into madness with every new thing that just destroys what
Dude,
I grew up
I
with.
keep telling you to let it go, man. They have done everything in their power to defile that corpse.
my it's like my hand is frozen to a pole. It's like I feel like we need to amputate it by this point. I actually physically can't let go. But I finally decided to go to my local games workshop. I was intrigued by the friendly atmosphere, and I finally started buying minis. I now have 2 armies now. Adeptus Custodes and the Death Watch. But most importantly is the thing that brought me the most was the lore and the whole point, not the whole point. The whole point of this episode was to watch the shows and to analyze them not only as fans of 40K and Warhammer, but also what they would be like if they held up on their own. That's why I brought Jake in.
Yeah.
And what would your impression be on most of those, actually?
For what, the episodes you watched?
Yeah, everything that we've. What's your overall opinion on?
In terms of in general, all the stuff that I watched, you need to do a better job with your animation, especially with Hammer and Bolter. Exodite was fine, but there was still some floopy moments here and there. Angels of Death, it looks cool, like on like kind of like just if they're just kind of standing there and moving around here and there. When they start like doing like lots of fighting and stuff, especially hand to hand, it looks weird. The sound design in Angels of Death is kind of ass, not gonna lie. like what Connor was saying this before we started, where like the chain swords, they just sound like regular ass chainsaws instead of like the kind of chunky over the top nonsense that they're kind of supposed to be. So yeah, in terms of the writing, I think Hammer and Bolter had like the strongest stuff in terms of writing, because while it was an anthology and as opposed to like a continuous story, like let's say Angels of Death or Exodite, which actually Angels of Death were fine story wise, but I would say that Hammer and Bolter is probably the best because aside from the poor presentation, quote unquote, animation, like the actual designs and stuff themselves were fine. In terms of the poor animation, the writing itself was pretty solid to, in some cases, actually pretty good.
Yeah. How did it feel as a how did it feel as a new person coming into all this? Would you be in, like, if this was your very first thing, would you be interested in picking up further stuff?
Probably. Yeah, I probably would be interested. Granted, that's probably just me, and I wouldn't consider this stuff like quote unquote normie not normie friendly, but like for like I wouldn't use it to introduce people to the series necessarily. Granted, I understand that, like, where exactly is the best stepping onto point when you have something this vast, right?
I have that same question because this is not the first time that they've tried to get me sucked into Warhammer. Is there a normie friendly method of doing that? Because everything I've been exposed to so far feels very not normie friendly.
I guess you would probably have to pick a story that doesn't necessarily require too much extensive knowledge of the backdrop and setting.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if there's like a specific game, book, whatever that like the whole community goes, yeah, that's where you should start.
I do. Dan Abnett is the best 40K author. So Gaunt's Ghosts and the Eisenhorn series. Like, I actually haven't read the Eisenhorn series, but people have said that that's one of the best jumping off points because it actually explores the universe through the eyes of an Inquisitor. And the Inquisitor actually moves through all the branches of the Inquisition. So he kind of confronts like every threat that faces humanity through the narrative. And then like book wise, that was a recommendation. And then I would say media wise, either the like 2010s like Dawn of War real time strategy games or Space Marine 2012 are good video game entry points because they're decent video games in and of themselves, but also the introduction to the lore. If you get sucked in through that, you'll get sucked into other avenues as well.
I was also told to start off straight with the Horus Heresy novels, so I did.
Those are brutal unless you can already kind of picture what's going on.
I finished the first one. I understood what was going on for the most part, but I feel as if I would have started, maybe had done that like as my 20th book, it probably would be a lot better.
honestly, in terms of like getting people into it, I probably would just show them Bricky's videos by this point. When he explains everything about the Imperium and the various Xenos races, just enough to like get the ball rolling, and then leave it in their hands if they want to continue or not.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the reason why the Horus Heresy was jarring for me, even as somebody who first participated or has participated in the universe in many ways. It's because they were like, oh, we start with like the Mournival, which is like Horus Lupercal's like guard who kind of counsel him and all that kind of stuff. And then also there was like some like early alien factions that they fight that they kind of only barely describe. And so it's hard for me to kind of like picture that without some assistance, like from other lore. So I actually kind of had to go back and like read the wiki on some Horus Heresy stuff. And then once I read the wiki on the Horus Heresy stuff, I was like, oh, okay, that's what they were talking about. And then from there, imagining the narrative was a lot easier.
It's like because when I had started, I'm like, when they described the quote unquote mega arachnate, I'm like, so are those the Tyranids? And apparently they're not the Tyranids.
Right. Yeah. There's all sorts of stuff like that where you're like, is this something important or is this just kind of background detail? And then half the time it is important, half the time it is background detail. So you're not really rewarded for guessing one way or the other.
Although I do like the contrast of how in 30K you have what is essentially kind of very secular society, although most people, even if they don't worship the emperor as a god, and there are some that do, the way they talk about him kind of sounds like they
Revere him.
revere him as like a god, but they don't know it yet. Don't know it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is, and it's also really strange because I think it was near the end of the first one where Horus or in the Mortival, I think there were a few other Primarchs there. I could be wrong though. They like had a quote unquote kind of peace meeting with another alien race that was descendants of humanity, but then everything went completely fucking wrong. Everything was on fire, and then that peace talks broke down. No, I really liked that part of the book a lot. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's really cool because you kind of see them like trying to navigate away from the disaster that will be the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and then you see how it falls apart, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually why I think it's Lorgar's book, not First Heretic, just the book he releases after falling to chaos is like what we did was like we set out just wanting the truth.
Well, he got it.
Yeah.
So wait, are we referring to when Horus got ganged banged by chaos?
Well,
more like Lorgar tried to worship his dad as a god, and then he got fucking shit stomped, and then he turned to the dark gods.
Oh, okay.
With very little persuasion, because the whole thing behind Lorgar was he was like, "Oh, you must be God. I'm not God. Oh, thanks, God." And then built a city for him. The emperor was like, "No, I told you to knock that shit off." Destroys his city right in front of him and makes all the word bearers swear loyalty to the Ultramarines. And a little shitlord called Erebus was like, "Hey, I want to worship chaos," and he's like, "Say no more, fam."
Oh wait, that asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm at the part in the second book where him and Horus is just not happy with him at the moment.
For good reason.
Yeah, he just kind of comes off as a little arrogant shit.
For good reason.
For the thing, what's really weird is when it comes to like the cause of the heresy, they kind of keep like there's of course multiple reasons behind the Horus Heresy, but in terms of like the catalyst that changes it, they always try to shift it away because now it's no longer Erebus, it's like the person that helped the Emperor craft the Primarchs in the first place. Like she was the one who scattered them all across the warp.
Yeah, but for me, like, there's actually a whole bunch of interesting things, and there's a whole bunch of interesting things that aren't said. Right. So for instance, which are inferred from the plot. So for instance, like the World Eaters were probably this is something that I've inferred and kind of had confirmed through narrative and other people telling me. The World Eaters were always going to be purged. The Iron Warriors were probably always going to be purged. And the inference for this is that like Perturabo and Angron are so fucked over by the Emperor repeatedly that it's almost inevitable that they're going to rebel. Like from the time that they meet to the missions that they're given to the way that they're treated and trained, like it's almost like the Emperor knew that he eventually was going to kill these people, so he didn't want to get too close. And kind of following that through line, the World Eaters and the Iron Warriors, like they don't like have a peacetime mission, right? So whereas the Ultramarines could have a peacetime mission. And so part of the vision of Horus is that like some of his brothers have been, kind of like blotted out of history, and that makes him furious, and that's part of what like drives him to rebel against the Emperor. But that is where I think like maybe Horus and Gilliman and Sanguinius, they had a future in the final Imperium of Man, but Perturabo and Angron didn't. And so
Mm-hmm.
that actually kind of gives like a decent justification to at least a good amount of the brothers to rebel because they were going to be purged the same way the Thunder Warriors had been.
Yeah, and then there's things like misinformation on why was part of the reason why certain sons, Magnus, turned against the Emperor, because the whole thing on like Magnus doing nothing wrong when he tried to warn the Emperor about Horus falling to chaos, breaking the webway
Yeah,
and
the
letting all the demons coming in. But
fucking Magnus.
you leave my big red guy alone. When I finally
Listen,
start a chaos army,
Zinch is the only chaos god that makes sense to me because he's actually relatively morally neutral.
yes. Uh, I
So
mean, kind of same with Nurgle. Nurgle just kind of wants, he just
yeah,
wants
actually,
one thing.
yeah. Somebody in my comments asked me. They were like, I don't understand why anybody would turn to Nurgle even if you were afraid of dying. And the truth is, like, for instance, like there were a few Death Guard who turned to Nurgle in the Flight of the Eisenstein book, and what was going on was they were like in pain. They were being consumed by the Life Eater virus, or they had like a small infection from fighting like Nurgle little demons, subdemons, or whatever. And what Nurgle promises is immortality and the alleviation of suffering. So as soon as you give in to Nurgle, you actually can't feel pain anymore, and you're immortal. And compare that to like the worst fever fucking infection that you've ever had in your life that makes you want to die 1,000 times over, but you can't quite die. That's the option of Nurgle is an end to suffering. And so that's kind of how he recruits his people.
Yeah, not only through all the diseases and stuff, also just the fact it's content. There will always be, there will always be this
Decay,
entropy.
entropy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so to embrace it, be comfortable with it.
Yeah,
And then
as long as there's something, it'll fall apart. Sorry.
Slanesh is for the furries.
Yep.
That's what happens when you have a
And-
bunch of
and
elves
then
murder
Slanesh
fucking
is for drug
existence.
addicts.
Yeah.
Well, so were they literally having a murder orgy, and then Slash
Yes.
just came into be? Oh my god!
Yeah,
Yeah,
This is why we
for,
can't.
for tens of thousands of years, they were literally kidnapping and murdering other creatures and murdering each other in the Colosseums and like raping each other's like wounds and like anything degenerate that you could possibly imagine somebody doing, the elves were doing because they were bored with immortality. And then as a result, they birthed the most like one of the most powerful chaos entities to ever exist in all of history.
Not only that,
Wow.
not only
Thanks,
that, Jake.
elves.
Not
Yep.
only that, Jake. After like the birth of Slanesh was so powerful, it literally ripped a hole in real space with the Eye of Terror.
Yep. And so
Oh.
they actually like unified like the planes, at least my understanding prior to that, the planes of existence between like warp was not always hell.
Yeah.
The warp was just like the subconscious realm of existence. And then what ended up happening was, these powers became powerful because of the subconscious power of existence. And there were areas where the distance between the realms was like thin, kind of like the Whisper Winds in the Horus Heresy book. But there wasn't like a full breakthrough. Whereas the birth of Slanesh was a full breakthrough between the realms.
You know, this is why I always side with the dwarves in fantasy.
I mean,
Well, good for you. The whatever of Votan, the dwarf faction just came out in 40K literally 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, squats are back, baby.
They were retconned, right? And now they're back.
Their original retcon was that they were all eaten by Tyranids, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're a cousin to humanity who kind of went and did their own thing, and they embraced technology that humans abhor, and then they allegedly all died to the Tyranids, but some of them survived, and now they're back.
And the reveal trailer was absolutely hilarious. You just have these blaring
April
alarm.
Fool's you back.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Games Workshop has actually, like, most companies are like, oh yeah, April Fools, this is the best product known to man. It's never gonna happen. Games Workshop is like, we're bringing squats back, motherfucker. And now it's soon to be a full faction or just like a sub army. I don't remember.
I think they're doing it in Kill Team, and then they're going to expand it into a full line.
Yeah.
So hold on, I gotta go grab something again, but I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
So finally, I'm wondering if we should move into the episodes now, or just kind of keep talking general 40K nonsense. All right. So first episode, as I'm pulling up the list, I'm pretty sure was the Inquisitor one.
Yeah, it was the one with the shapeshifter, the shapeshifting lady.
So that one wasn't like the worst thing.
It was fine. It was fine.
So the story ninja was that an Inquisitor is very focused on these tarot cards to tell his future so that he can win battles and be the best Inquisitor he can. The problem being is that has drawn the eyes of other Inquisitors, and because the Inquisition has very little in terms of checks and balances, they kind of just have a fight between their own personal squads. Because Inquisitors can have squads of assassins, Xenos, or like a guardsman that did really well, and they just
humans.
They just duke it out. Then after all of this, we have two assassins that were revealed. That was a Caluxus and a so the Vindicare that comes later. There's a Caluxus assassin, and then there's the shape-shifting one. Mm-hmm. The Caluxus dies, and the shapeshifter one is captured. Specifically trying to learn how what she is doing, why she was sent, and that she will die. She then sets up that how the assassins are made, that kind of stuff. And it was revealed that this was all a ploy. Pulling back to the window, there was a ship outside with a Vindicare sitting on the hull who just blammos his way, making a pretty impressive sniper shot. And then the shapeshifter transforms into that Inquisitor, because that's kind of their job. Subterfuge and sabotage. That's the really short...
talking about Death's Hand?
Yes. I was... Yeah. We're finally breaking down the episodes. I was explaining the plot to Ninja, since that was not one of the episodes I showed him.
Yeah. I think Death's Hand had one of the more interesting plots, but still kind of like weak on the back end. But it was still interesting, if not strong.
I think the problem I was having with it, I think
For me, it was
It
the
was
Ocean's 11 bullshit. It's like, dude, like a fucking whatever that shape-shifting assassin could have easily have taken out all of those fucking people. They didn't need the Vindicare.
yeah, the idea that this was all to set up that Vindicare just making that cool shot, and it's like, and then the reveal is
You
like,
didn't
oh,
need to do that.
now the shapeshifters turned into the Inquisitor.
That was the only thing upon like second viewing or maybe third viewing where I was like, okay, maybe they wanted to retain some of the original retinue to vouch for the shape-shifting Inquisitor. That way they could get to another target to kill another target. And then I was thinking like how crabbed like the Officio Assassinorum and the Inquisition are, and how that's actually like a real possibility. And then I was like, okay, this is either really, really, really smart or really stupid, and I can't tell which, and that's frustrating.
Wait, when the Inquisitor got shot and the one shapeshifter, when she took his form, she tossed a grenade into the room, right?
Yeah, to
and,
burn the
and burned
evidence.
his body, so
Is
you
no
couldn't
one
tell
gonna
it was him.
well, yeah, is no one gonna like go? It's like, why did someone throw a grenade in this room, or is that just like an everyday
Are-
occurrence?
Are you
Yeah,
going
it's
to
the
question the
Inquisition.
Inquisitor?
Okay, that's fair.
Like if the room was on fire and there was like a humanoid corpse in the room, then literally like if somebody asked the Inquisitor, he could be like, "Oh yeah, the shapeshifter changed into me to fuck with my head, so I burned him with a fucking melter grenade." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and arguing with the Inquisition is heresy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'll get you
yeah.
shot.
Well, actually,
fair
reading the Inquisition lore was actually really interesting because apparently within the Inquisition, there's no formal hierarchy between Inquisitors. There's Inquisitors and Lord Inquisitors, and every Inquisitor has technically their own valid opinion, but the Lord Inquisitors break deadlocks.
I think the only people that can truly question the Inquisition are the High Lords of Terra. But even then, I'm pretty sure the High Lords are dead now. I'm pretty sure Gilliman just killed them all.
Was that when he came back?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember if he deposed them or killed them or both.
Because he was very sick and tired. Because there's a famous quote, I may read it to you later, Jake. That is like, "Look at what has become of you, of your dream, father."
Yeah, that's true. When you look at what he wanted and you look at what it is now, it's like, oh man, this is not. This is a vast downgrade.
Well, for me, I still like what Horus accused the Emperor of, that he was
Yes.
trying to be the apotheosis, that he claimed not to be God because he knew there were real gods that he wanted to starve of attention. That way he could basically weaken them, and then once he had starved those gods sufficiently, he would turn to human worship in order to become the ascendant human god of order. Like, I think that's what Horus accused his father of doing long term, and I like that 4D chess for the Emperor.
Yeah, I think it was in TTS. It was, of course, a theory. Magnus brought up how you, like, in your attempt to try to starve the Chaos Gods, you would have become the avatar for a new god.
Well, and apparently there's even a Tau greater good god. So
Ooh.
one of the little lore things, segues that I bumped into was there was the Tau trying to do a warp jump without a Geller field. And so all the humans got eaten that were like, part of the ship. They got eaten instantaneously. But the Tau have such dim souls that the demons basically ignored them. And then the greater good god pushed them back into real space.
Oh, so is the Tau god just as cringe as the Tau?
Yes.
Yeah. That's just a definite yes.
It's
Good.
a Hindu Vishnu deity that's blue with a fish head that pushed them back into real space.
Oh boy, yeah. So of course the freaking weird communist cultist fish people have a Hindu-esque god.
Listen, it makes me happy, okay? And actually the coolest the Tau ever looked was temporarily they looked cool in the Exodite. Temporarily.
Yeah, and
then they got their
we
shit pushed in.
I was going to say, then we watched
that's what
somebody
happens when you can't do melee.
Yeah, we watched a fucking guardsman just beat one to death with a fucking shovel.
With not even a shovel. It was like a
Oh, it's
club with like a metal end.
I thought
No,
I thought
no,
he
it's
was beating him to
grenade.
death with one of those. Yeah, it was one of those weird like those like grenade one of those.
Balls.
Yeah, one of those grenades. Yeah, and he was just beat him to death with it. It's like, wow, for the emperor, my brother.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
in terms
Didn't
of
didn't want to be kept down.
nitpicks for the episode, I'll keep it short as somebody who really loves the guard. The idea that a Catachan jungle hunter could just stop a shot from a hot shot Laz with his bare arm.
With his forearm, dude. If my audio quality drops, it's just because I'm actually gonna lie down for a second. My fucking neck is killing me.
That's
But
fine.
dude, yeah, his fucking elbow should have been vaporized with a hot shot. There's no fucking way
To
he should have been able to stop that shit.
to explain, Ninja, a las gun is capable, like a normal las gun is capable of blowing off a limb from a single shot. So a hot shot las can go through space marine armor. And this normal ass human stopped it with his arm. He just went ha, and then only a tiny chunk of his forearm was blasted off.
Well, clearly he was stunning and brave.
he he just went ha, and I don't even remember if that's what killed him or not. It just the fight continues.
It wasn't the giant cyborg. There's arguments about it, but it's combat servitor is what made most sense to most people because he is a cyborg and he is monstrous and he is aggressive and he obeys robotic commands. So I think a combat servitor is the thing that makes most sense.
Oh, I thought that was just a even further roided up Eversor assassin, like the guys that you.
I
Drug
think
the
they would
hell
have made
up.
it more obvious if it was an Eversor.
Fair enough.
The only thing I really remember about Exodite was the Clancy Brown assassin. That was it.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown? What?
Oh yeah, the Exodite, like the actual Eldar person, is played by Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, is there like some like teenage like Nancy Drew Hardy Boys kind of word that I never heard of before, and I didn't know what Clancy Brown is. It does sound like a teenage young adult adventure detective series.
Hey, that's Lex Luthor you're talking about right now.
How dare you? That is Sergeant Zim
Hey,
from Starship
that's
Troopers.
that's Private Zim to you.
That's right. He busted himself down to private so he could get the brain bug. What a goddamn Chad.
Yeah. But actually like, well, wait. So keeping it focused on the Death's Hand thing. One of the things when I was rewatching it, because when I was rewatching it, I was actually checking out like the frames. There are like little hints at cooler shit. So for instance, like the kind of effete gentleman inquisitor, there are like blue slashes that go against the power armor inquisitor that kind of like indicate that the guy is like striking at him with his sword cane more like he's faster than the power armored inquisitor. And then
Mm-hmm.
also when you slow down the action, there is quite impressive stuff from the Calidus assassin, where like she like takes out the gunslinger, then kind of like moves on to another target, body slams her, gets like knocked around by an explosion, dodges some gunfire, does some like ninja moves, leaps into the air, and then bisects the Eldar Ranger. And all of that stuff was pretty cool because when you're part of what I do when I watch these things is I think about like the tabletop rules. Like what is in the tabletop, what is in the data sheets, what are the wounds counts, what are the armor counts, and could these characters technically do what they're doing in the animation series based off of their data sheets? And like I know that's like an overly analytical nerdy thing, but technically the Eversor based off of data sheet and lore description could do what she did in the series, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Hmm. Well, that's actually a very interesting way to think about it. I try to mainly stick with like the lore since I'm not as the most familiar with the tabletop, because well, with that logic, then guardsmen would rarely be able to do anything, because in the tabletop, while they can take on Space Marines, the las gun is like referred to as the weakest gun in the universe, like referred to by flashlights, by
That
Space Marines.
that's mostly exterior shit posting though, because like you gotta think about it. Kind of like you said, the las rifle is derided publicly by a lot of people, but when a human shoots another human with a las rifle, they literally like potentially lose that limb. You know.
Yeah,
So if you compare that to like modern stuff, like I think a 308, which is like a 7.62 by 51 caliber round, is considered quite powerful. And like if you hit somebody in their bone, you could you shoot them in the arm and you hit them literally dead center in the bone. You could technically like blow apart that limb, particularly if it's a hollow point. So and then like a 50 caliber round, that'll just like pulp like half your body. So in our world, it's probably between a 308 and a 50 cal in terms of power. But in their world, they're going up against Starship Troopers bugs, 10-foot tall, orcs that are like, basically silverback gorillas, like with guns. It's just because the enemies are so monstrous is why the las rifle is so derided, not because it's actually a bad platform. It's actually a pretty
that's
good platform.
that's true. It's just compared to like what it's up against.
Yeah, their enemies versus our enemies. Their enemies are horrifying compared to what we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can rant for another 5 minutes if you need me to.
No, I was immediately trying to think of any more like possible holes in the actual like story, because
The only
original.
hole, yeah, the main hole that I have is a Vindicator becoming a weapon for the Officio Assassinorum. He would be so brutalized by that point that he wouldn't care that some random Inquisitor conducted a war on his home planet that, like, caused him to be an assassin. He wouldn't give a fuck about that shit anymore. And then that whole, like, Ocean's 11 plot to get him in the room to shoot him in the head, that was, like, like I said, the only thing that makes that potentially smart was the changeling assassin wanting to take the Inquisitor's place. But even then, all the changeling assassin would have to do is kill that like Sister of Battle retinue member, and then just become the Inquisitor, and it would have been the same thing. So it's kind of it's not that smart.
Yeah,
No.
it's the idea that everybody sleeps, everybody has to shit, everybody has to eat. So it's like you have plenty of opportunities you could have used to kill him.
Right.
It's pretty much. I'm trying to put it in terms because I was about to use a Yu-Gi-Oh term, but I'm the only one here who knows how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I think so. I can't do that. Um, it's like okay, so it's like doing a bunch of backflips to walk 10 feet backwards, basically.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Which like in the lore, the Imperium of Man does that shit all the time. But just because it does that shit all the time doesn't mean it's not silly to see it portrayed.
Yeah.
Right. I think with that, we're ready to move on to Bound for Greatness, which is episode 2.
What which one was that about?
That was the formation of a Zaintian cult.
Oh, that one was pretty good. That
A
was
lot of
pretty
people
good.
like that one. I thought it was the most boring fucking thing on the planet.
So in terms of like general like moods of the Chaos Gods, how do you feel towards Zinch? Because since Zinch is my main guy, I was fascinated to hell and back.
If I was going to become a slave to chaos, I think Zinch is like it's either chaos undivided or it's Zinch. Like that's pretty much it for me.
So the reason I found this episode so fascinating was because the idea of a formation of a chaos cult, the way we've seen it from other characters' perspectives, it happens almost instantly. Whereas we finally see like the foundation of it with seeing the librarium, seeing these acolytes day to days. They're not acolytes. Slur knew what they were called. And we learned there no talking, no thinking, no Like, only count the books, and you just see like how curiosity just fucks with a person, and then when they finally reveal themselves to the hidden knowledge, they're like, it's untold horrors are erupted, and then they are the book. And
Yeah.
we see how using the emperor's quote unquote teachings to twist them so that they end up worshiping the wrong god.
Well,
Yep.
you say that, but the thing about it is what I like about the original Horus Heresy series compared to the context of this episode is that there were a lot of curious characters. Like I forget the priest's name, but the priest who's like a part of like the Remembrancer cohort who ends up like protecting the
Is
Remembrancer,
it
who ends up being a saint.
Ignis Kakazi?
Yes, yes. So Ignis or whatever, he starts out as like a religious skeptic, but then through questioning and seeing demons and seeing the saint reveal herself and like all this kind of stuff, he becomes a believer in the like imperial cult. And what I liked about his thing was that like he was always a critical thinker. He was always a skeptic. He was always somebody who opened up his mind. And it's just that reality conformed with the reality that there are gods and demons and monsters, and the emperor is the only thing that can fight these things. So he that kind of leads him back to worshiping the emperor. Well, in this universe, curiosity is so scorned that they end up creating the material, leftists would say, the material conditions that lead to revolution in the first place. Because you can't treat humans like robots; they will rebel eventually. And so that's kind of for me, it was almost like the guy who was in charge of the librarian, that guy was treating his serfs like even more poorly, so they would rebel even more, so they would become part of the Zinchian cult.
Mm-hmm. I think it was good to, in a way, to show off like how such a like how such a strict system could be used against you. Because when you do get curious, that's when you get turned into a book, and that's how the rest of the masses get
Yeah, and then they
indoctrinated.
sacrifice your soul to preach Zinch's word. Yeah.
Yeah, I just loved just the pure fascination of that. Like, this is how the world's, because since every Imperium world is, since communication is so hard already, like it's so easy for these worlds to fall to either aliens or, in this case, a cult.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess my frustration with watching it originally is like I came to 40K for like blood and guts and maybe a little bit of introspection. I didn't come to it for like, this kind of like hyper analytical, whatever shit. So I can appreciate it, and I actually appreciate that so many people appreciated it, because I was kind of talking shit like, "Hey, I'm here for blood and guts, not for whatever this is." And there was actually a whole bunch of people in the comments who were like, "No, you're wrong. This is actually utterly fascinating because it's like a psychological analysis of how this place falls apart." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I
Mm,
guess not only was I happy that they appreciated it, but they made me appreciate it through those comments."
I'd
right.
also, granted, I'm not granted. I would also assume that if 40K has been around this long in terms of like the lore and stuff, obviously you'd have quite a bit of variety in terms of what you're going to get as well.
Yeah, you that's it, and it all just depends on the angle you come from, because if you honestly are there to just play, you could just not care about the lore in general and just play the tabletop. There are those types of people. I
Yeah,
play with them all the time.
my coworker, I don't know if he doesn't play it anymore, but he used to play Warhammer. He didn't really know anything about the lore at all.
I always find that so odd because of how much the lore is just attached to just the game itself.
Like, so
Yeah.
sometimes I have to be reminded that Warhammer is a tabletop game.
Yeah, there are definitely people like that. As a matter of fact, the Fire Raptor that I bought that was from a dude who all he does is the game. So he just likes wargaming. So he buys the models that he thinks will work best for the game. He spray paints them so they're tabletop legal. He doesn't like painting. He war games with his friends, and that's all he does. And like I think that's cool in a way, but for me, like literally 80% of my appreciation of this universe is the lore.
Exactly. Mm, yeah, other than kind of the overall I can't think of any holes with Bound for Greatness
No,
because
it was good.
it was a very simple story,
Mm-hmm.
which is how they should keep it. I'm a very big I lean a lot on simple stories because
You're an advocate of Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
exactly. It's kind of why with like not subtly pushing the message over all the sorts of movies. Like, no, stop it. Just have, like in the case of Lightyear, I just want Buzz to just fly around on his wings and shoot his laser arm. Like,
Right.
have a decent story, but it's like
Yeah.
don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, like right before I came on this call, I was with some other guys. We were watching the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and it's like these are very basic, very simple, but relatively competently put together movies that are actually pretty funny. Because like there's this one scene where Knuckles thinks he's gonna get like attacked by Robotnik's robots, and he's going on this bones. Like, how I will crush your bones. Oh, they are stairs. And he just walks up.
What?
Y-
I still
No,
haven't
that
seen Sonic 2.
legitimately, my son watches those movies on repeat, and like the memes of like who is it, like Robotnik is stuck on the mushroom planet and he's trying to make like coffee out of like crushed mushrooms, but he can't
Yeah.
because it's stuck so bad. And then he gets back to Earth, and then his underling makes him coffee, and he's like, "You should add more mushroom flavor." And
Does he?
it's like the most ridiculous thing, but at the same time, like it's fun, and it's fun for the adults and the kids. So yeah, I think they're, and also for me, I like simple moral messaging for my kid because I don't want him to be lost in some like 10 head, 10 IQ world is gray, whatever thing. If you look at like the first movie is you can't always run away from your problems, defend your friends. That's
Yeah.
literally like the moral messaging of the first movie. And then the second movie, I don't know if there was any moral messaging. Maybe your enemies aren't your enemies and you should figure out whether or not they're your enemies. I don't know.
Well, because
Uh,
Knuckles and Sonic have very similar backstories in a
Well,
way.
it was also with great power comes great responsibility.
yeah, which awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I'm
I
fine
want
with,
my kid to learn that.
and it, above all, it was entertaining.
And this is why I'm going to show my kid old Power Rangers over new Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's sad that we live in a timeline where like all these franchises and IPs we love are destroyed, but Sonic, man, that's where it's fucking at. Like,
If you guys ever want to go onto a tangent of the gutting of Star Wars, I would come back to the show just to talk shit about like Star Wars for fucking 6 hours. So
yeah,
I have the Mantisaur skull tattooed on my arm way before Mandalorian was even a drop in Kathleen Kennedy's fucking eye, like a
well,
gleam in
yeah,
her
season
eye.
one was good. Season one was good.
no,
No.
What?
sorry, no.
No. I
What?
I look, I'm not even like a
It
Star
wasn't
Wars
even.
quote unquote fan necessarily, at least I didn't grow up with it or whatever. The Mandalorian at least makes me angry.
Is it is okay? So how should I rephrase this? Mandalorian season one is good compared to Disney Star Wars movies.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
but that's not
Yeah.
really a bar. That's like saying, it's better than that steaming pile of shit over there. It's like, well, gee, thanks, I
I was
guess.
I was going
Well,
to say this glass
I
filled with
meant
vomit.
every word of that.
Kind of.
Let's see
That,
now. Let's see now. Papa Gundam said it's like well, what's worse, getting punched, getting stabbed, getting kicked in the balls, or a staple in your ass? Well, I guess a staple in my ass is better than all of that, but it still hurts.
Well, so
yeah.
I would say the Mandalorian is more close to a staple in the ass than a straight kick to the balls, which I would say Disney movies were like at least for the second like the second third or second half of the second movie was basically like being kicked in the dick repeatedly for like another 90 minutes. Like it was just rough.
Oh yeah, TLJ is really bad. I think people have kind of forgotten about how bad TLJ is when Tross came out, and then like when something like Boba Fett came out, and I think now Kenobi's come out. Some people have forgotten just how bad TLJ really is.
Well, and what's crazy to me is I had people who were like, "No, no, 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 TLJ is good," and I'm like, "What?"
What?
Yeah.
That's
Does
And I
anyone
was like, "Dude,
remember?
you're coping. Like,
Oh
what are
yeah,
you doing?"
it's hard. There's a lot of copium in the Star Wars fan base, which is toxic and racist, mind you.
Hmm.
We're all horrible people. But does anyone remember when Disney originally went to acquire both Star Wars and Marvel? They did it supposedly with the express purpose of like adding content for little boys because they were known for all the princess stuff and they wanted IPs for boys. Fine. But then it's like they get both of those things and they immediately are like, we're going to make these for girls. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
with Marvel it took a little while, but with Star Wars
Let,
it was pretty like that.
let's
yeah.
not forget the famous meeting between Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas, where it's like, oh no, we're gonna respect your characters, we're gonna
Oh
continue the
God.
story,
Oh God,
and
George. No.
and then as I'm just
I
watching
get
the
the feeling
sequel,
George has her in his phone still only because he's got her number blocked.
I honestly, she's got dirt on somebody. That's the only reason she
She
still has a
has
job.
to have.
She does. It's called a contract.
But
That's
her
it. That's all it
contract
is.
her contract's been renewed though.
Yeah,
Like,
but current day, dude, you cannot fire her without legitimate reason, or there would be a shitstorm
what about
because she is
Prophet?
pushing the message,
But
and
Disney's
that's what.
been. Go ahead.
Well, how about
Sorry.
no? I was just gonna say I was just gonna meme and be like, "Well, how about we just fire her because she's a woman?" But the
Exactly.
fucking like,
I
but
mean, if
the
we're gonna.
I mean the no, there is a real problem here, which is just like I you're right, and like it's actually hilarious that like Top Gun Maverick is being touted as like it's toxic masculine. Like I'm not even saying that the SJWs are saying this, but like a movie about a dude who is rebellious and bro-ish, who doesn't listen to his authorities, who has talent that outweighs his bad personal character attributes, who then pushes young people to be better than they are. That's like a pretty simple, archetypical masculine story. And the fact that I haven't, like, I can't tell you the last time I saw that story, that's frustrating to me because I feel like I grew up with that story all the time.
Oh
Like
yeah,
in Indiana Jones or Han Solo in the original Star Wars
pretty
or
much all the
um,
Stallone and Schwarzenegger stuff.
yeah, like every male led thing, 90s and thousands, was a dude who was comfortable in his own skin, who like went who did what was right regardless of the consequences. That was literally like the archetype. And now I'm trying to think of like the last movie that I saw within the past 5 to 10 years that was like that, and I'm blanking. Like what movie
I
is like that?
guess I guess Avengers in 2012 when like Iron Man was gonna
I do.
sacrifice himself to just for takes the nuke through the portal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and he
uh,
does end up sacrificing himself. I actually, you know what? I'll retract a little bit. I like the Marvel thread through Infinity War. I thought it was pretty good.
Not
so
all of it.
hold on. Like, would you mind explaining a tiny bit? Because I'm. What do you mean by the thread? Like, so how Tony, like, goes through like his personal story of through
Yeah,
both movies.
I think there's trash films where like the logic doesn't keep. But the special effects are always pretty decent. And then I think that if you look at the narratives of like each character is the combination of power with a certain virtue. So if you look at Iron Man, it's like knowledge combined with power. If you look at Captain America, it's principle combined with power. If you look at like Thor, it's like nobility combined with power. And so you see kind of like all these like, moral peaks and troughs through the arc of each character as they continue through their own like sub film set. With my favorite probably being Captain America. And then it does get, relatively speaking, tied off by Infinity War. And considering how many characters they had, I considered that pretty impressive. So, and like,
Don't you mean
mhm.
Endgame?
Yeah, whatever the thing is where Tony finally kills himself in order to
Yeah,
save
that's
humanity.
Endgame. Because I was wondering, like, Infinity. Don't get me wrong, I like Infinity War,
Mm.
but like I don't remember Tony dying in that.
Yeah.
He
I
almost
just
did.
meant through the Thanos saga. I thought everything was pretty decent, and then after that, it was kind of like, oh well, let's just see what we can still do with this IP, and that's what it feels like now.
Well, there's no doubt that Phase 4 has been an absolute unmitigated disaster, but I think even Phase 3 had a lot of problems.
Well, but is that problems because of like lack of talent or lack of effort, or is that problems because telling that convoluted of a story is difficult?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
stuff like Black Panther and Captain Marvel felt really shoehorned in there. Like, you get more of a meaningful narrative for Black Panther in Civil War than you do in his own movie.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
don't even
what? You
like
didn't
Black
like the
Panther that
combat
much.
rhinoceros?
No.
No.
Wait, look, no, look. The rhinos are there to be milked.
Yeah,
No.
we've
So,
established this.
okay, hold on. He probably doesn't even know that joke. Uh, so
Because it's still hilarious.
okay, fair enough. It's just like getting exposed to EFAB memes. It's like, oh no, that one like
Yeah.
that guy was explained.
there.
Yeah, it's just
Or-
like, oh no, we will look
Well,
like.
we also talked about Captain Marvel and the Dawn, his journey into becoming the true savior of humanity.
Well, wait. Are you telling me that well, okay. I'll say Captain Marvel was the most shoehorned shit I'd ever seen in my entire life.
It's
Where it was,
so bad.
dude, where it's just like, I'm a woman and I have amnesia, but I'm a part of a special forces team. Turns out that I got hit by a jet engine 20 years ago, and that made me awesome. Now I'm not going to listen to this man tell me what to do. And I was like,
Her
that was the story.
her power limiting patch only worked because she thought it worked.
Oh, speaking of Top Gun, did you see the? I swear to God, Twitter is a cesspool. But
Oh
I
yeah, I
saw this
sent you that
post.
picture.
Yeah, fucking where they're saying like, "Oh, Top Gun is copying Captain Marvel," and I was like, "Excuse me."
I
Excuse
will
the fuck
show
out of me.
I will
It's
show the
like,
picture
what?
in the Discord. Hold on.
Yeah,
Holy
I
shit.
I I, I try not to take that shit seriously because that might
Oh my God.
There was a cat literally named Goose, which is the reason why Nick Fury lost his eye. Jesus Christ.
Okay. Nick Fury losing his eye. Okay, so in my mind, I combined something way cooler, which was it's actually a quote from like Nick Fury's character, even though it's not Nick Fury, from the Triple X movies with Vin Diesel, where his like
Okay.
his face is all fucked up because like he's been in war for like 40 years, and Vin Diesel's like, oh yeah, you want me to fight for the United States, and like look at what the United States did to your fucking face. And Samuel L. Jackson literally responds, small price to pay for putting foot to ass for my country. And I
Yeah,
was like,
Triple X was good.
that's a great fucking line. And I
Yeah.
wish that they had that kind of like self-sacrificial, like actually Nick Fury did something badass to lose his fucking eye kind of shit. Oh, and
Well,
then it doesn't jive with
oh,
the
the
story in Civil
in
War where like Nick Fury is like this renegade badass who will do what's right regardless of the consequences in order to like save
You
lives and
mean
protect humanity.
Damien Winter Soldier? He wasn't in Civil War, I don't think.
he
Uh,
wasn't. Uh,
yeah, Winter Soldier, excuse me.
but you know,
Yeah, where
I
they
love
take
that
over the
line.
CIA or whatever, or they take
Yeah,
over their version
and
of the
then
CIA.
Fury's all like, "Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." I'm like,
That was a
"Wow,
really good
A
line.
cat.
that was a really good line." But now it's like I trusted this fucking alien cat that can eat an Infinity Stone for reasons, but it's not really a cat.
It's a Gazorb Bazorp.
Oh yeah, and dude, and
Kill.
I hated the Uno reverse card too, where they're like, we're hunting and killing these aliens. Oh, turns out they're just refugees. Oh wait, didn't they just like
What?
murder a bunch of people and take over their bodies? Wait, what? Okay.
And they had Carol, who they needed. They needed the whatever the fuck that's in her head, the memories or whatever. And then they could have just gone, look. All right, sorry, we didn't really have any other choice. Let us explain. But no, freaking Ben Mendelsohn's just going, they did something in your head. I'm evil Australian man.
Sorry, this body's taken. As they both turn into a hot lady.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll admit there were some misses in phase 3. Okay.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying. Like that's where it started to stumble, but it wasn't beyond repair. And then
Right.
phase 4 came out, and you're just like, oh, it's dead now. Got it.
Yeah, it's just everything I've seen from I mean, I only watched one episode of Loki, and from that one episode I'm like, oh, this ruins a lot. And then
Oh,
from what
yeah.
I understand,
It's a
from what I
joke.
what I understand, I'm like, and I watched what some people review it and watched at least a few clips online, not
Yeah.
the entire episodes. I'm like, oh, so now it's super ruined. I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm done
Yeah,
with this.
there's this guy named Ryan who does a pitch meeting on YouTube.
yeah, we
And
watch pitch meeting all the time.
dude, I love his summaries so much because he kind of points out what's absurd in such like an efficient way where so I didn't watch Loki, but his summary of it was like Loki watches a film of him doing bad stuff, and then he decides that he's good. And then the producer is like, wait. We built up Loki as kind of like a mischievous and bad character for like 10, for like dozens of movies. And on top of that, hasn't he killed like shitloads of people, including shitloads of innocent people? And then like the pitch guy is like, oh yeah, but he watched a movie, so he feels bad now, and now he's a good guy, so we're gonna be rooting for him. And I was like, fuck, like.
Oh no, it's
Yeah,
even worse than that, because then he tells Owen Wilson that I don't like hurting people. It's just
I'm pretty sure you love hurting people, you piece of
Exactly.
shit.
You took
Exactly.
you yanked out a person's eyeball with a
He
smile
killed-
on your fucking face.
he killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
And that's why we liked him. Like that's the biggest problem. It's like he didn't need to be fixed. He was
Yeah.
popular for a fucking reason.
Well, yeah,
Well,
he was charming and manipulative and snide and fun and weird. And sorry, I'll shut up in a second. But that's actually why I really really liked Thor Ragnarok, because it combined like offbeat comedy with like horrific violence. And what was it like? And then it also called out Loki on his own shit, where it's like, dude, you pull the same move over and over and over again to the point that I knew you were going to try to fuck me over, so I fucked you over first. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's actually like the perfect culmination of Thor wanting to love his brother, but knowing his nature so well that he's not going to look past his brother's nature. I actually thought that was perfect.
I like bits of Thor Ragnarok. The only thing I don't like about it is just kind of Thor himself, but that's because they turned him into just Chris Hemsworth. They
Yeah,
thought it was great.
it does. Well, it seems like a bit of an inconsistency where he goes from kind of this kind of little bit over the top Shakespearean kind of character a little bit. And now he's just a goofball.
See, but that's actually something that I kind of took. Well, I like Taika Waititi. I like his offbeat comedic like sense of instinct. But also, what I liked about Thor's arc, Thor went from my least favorite character to one of my favorite characters, and I think the reason why I liked him is because he was this like Shakespearean noble with like kind of a medieval sense of honor and all of that kind of stuff. But you just see, and like he's actually really good at everything, including like, invading the frost giants and fucking kicking their ass and this, that, the other. But through like his continued experience, he actually keeps getting his ass kicked. So like, losing, basically almost losing the battle in New York, or developing affection for a woman who then he breaks up with, and then, losing his hammer, getting it back. Basically, what was the other one? Like losing the hammer permanently when he goes up against his sister or whatever.
Ella.
Yeah, like he loses so much that it's probably hard to be a Shakespearean noble when life has just like kicked you in the teeth repeatedly. And so that's kind of like what I like about his final character, is that he's basically not a Shakespearean noble anymore. He's just a fucking dude because life has kicked the fuck out of him.
Then
And
Fat Thor happened, and that makes me sad.
I actually love Fat Thor.
No, we should have had Punish Thor, where he's just fucking angry as shit.
Actually, Punish Thor would have been great too. Not gonna lie, Rage Thor would have been awesome.
Sorry, you guys carry on. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, we probably should get back to Hammer and Bolter, or else we're going to be doing the entire Marvel series instead.
I was going to say, this just feels like for the first hour was a Warhammer episode, then it just turns into just a normal Y.A.R.P episode.
Oh
yes,
no,
Star Wars sucks. Marvel's okay.
Not anymore.
Yeah, no.
Marvel was okay.
I was gonna point out to Jake, like, Jake does not know suffering. We watched all of Captain Falcon, and Ninja, you were just like, no, we're not doing an episode. I was like full hog on like ready for us to cover it, and you were just like, no, I'm pulling the plug.
It started with WandaVision, right? And like the first 3 episodes of WandaVision are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then it just absolutely nosedives off a cliff. And we were like, okay, that was pretty bad, but maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier will still be decent. Like, we had hope. Boy, were we fucking wrong. Like, holy shit.
For me, it was good up until about the halfway point, and then like the last 30%, last 35% was not great.
He was Captain Simp for a fucking terrorist. Like, bro.
Way before he got the shield back.
And just that whole thing, like, you fucked up giving the shield to a black man. It's like, wait, I thought we would have been racist if we didn't give the shield to a black man. I don't understand. Apparently we're wrong either way.
Oh yeah, well, Steve didn't know what it was like to give the shield to a black guy. And it's like, I don't think Steve cared.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I get that. I'm okay with the racial reckoning shit. The thing that kind of bugged me though, or wait, where I thought it was cool. Where I thought it was cool was the new Captain America not being as noble as the old Captain America, and him basically being like a grizzled war veteran who had actually seen and done a bunch of shit. So his PTSD and his rage, because he's going like up against he's overclassed by super soldiers or whatever, and his friend gets killed, and then he fucking decapitates a terrorist in public in front of cell phone cameras. I thought that was awesome. I was like, that is.
Oh yeah, U.S. Agent was unironically the hero of that show.
Yeah, well, I was convinced that I was originally like, oh, just John Walker was bad no matter what, and then I had to be convinced by these guys talking to me, and then also just listening to the EFAP covers, like, oh no, John Walker is actually a great guy who deserved that shield.
Well, what I was kind of thinking is that like Cap, like the original Cap or whatever, he always had that restraint and that principled restraint. And if you remember the original Captain America movie, like the reason why their version of Einstein or whatever gave Cap the powers in the first place was because he was like, I'm picking a little guy who's principled because he knows what it's like to basically get your ass kicked. And he knows what it's like to be, to be at the whims of other people with power. So he will wield power responsibly. Well, what I like about the new guy is like the new guy, he didn't necessarily have that. Like he was a warrior his entire life. So he did not have as much restraint as the original Cap. And as a result, that's kind of where he decapitates a terrorist in public with the fucking shield, which I thought was awesome. And I'm okay with the conflict between Winter Soldier and the new Cap and Falcon, where the Winter Soldier is basically saying like the reason why Cap picked you is because you had that like moral fiber where you would not have acted the same way that the agent guy did or whatever. And so like I'm perfectly fine with that conflict. Where I'm not okay with that conflict is like Falcon should be fucking biologically augmented. Okay? He should not be a normal guy who does like a few burpees and he's able to fight super soldiers. Like that's bullshit.
Well, but don't you?
But you also need to stop calling her a terrorist. Come on. Yeah. No, you can't call her a terrorist.
You
can't call her a terrorist. Stop calling her that.
Wait, isn't she a fucking terrorist?
That's what
I can
Sam
call
says
her
at
that
the
because
end.
I'm a ginger. Okay, she's one of my own, so I can use that word.
You,
That's what Sam says during his like
You
infantile
gotta
ass
do better.
speech.
Okay, you gotta do better.
Well,
yeah,
but she didn't really become a terrorist until she killed all those fucking people in the building. Then she was a fucking terrorist.
I mean, she kind of was the whole time, but
yeah.
Well,
In fact,
I don't think she killed anybody intentionally until that building.
she was all, but she
Well,
was
you don't even
stealing
need to kill
shit.
people to be a terrorist necessarily. It's just violence for it's like, what is it? Isn't it being a terrorist? You're committing acts of
Yeah,
violence to
it's
support a
not. Yeah,
political.
it's like non-state violence for political means. Like, yeah, like
No,
I
like
get that, but like, are we
Mhm.
gonna say like suicide bombing a fucking civilian bus versus like pouring sugar in Humvee gasolines like in the gas
Well,
tanks of like Humvees? Are we gonna say these are the same things, even though
Well, I
like
mean,
the latter is an eco-terrorist?
no, but
well,
it's more about how she was portrayed. Like she was portrayed as being like the hero and morally right the entire show, even when she was doing really sketchy shit.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Let's smash all the flags. Let's make a global pan refugee United Nations globalist fucking sure, whatever. Thanks, Captain America.
I
listen. The government can move borders, even though that would require
With an
a violent
email.
takeover of a country.
it could
Ugh.
cut
Excuse me.
down cut down forests with a phone call, even though that phone call would
Dude,
probably last like
can
17
can I
hours.
dude the okay, we're at absolute so I was okay with the conflicts. I was okay with the conflicts of like Falcon in his own head. I was okay with him being the fucking new Cap. I was okay with all this shit. The two things that like basically I was like, this is like damaging brain cells inside my head. One was basically him being unaugmented, going up against augmented people and somehow winning. And then two was when he literally gives a speech to a senator, like in front of cell phones, and he's like, "Listen, the leaders of this world need to do better. You need to be nicer to people
Well,
and less mean.
let,
And she was a terrorist, and she might have been bad, but her points overall were pretty good. And I'm
But don't
Captain
call her a
America."
terrorist.
Yeah,
let's
but
let's not
I'm
forget
Captain America, but let's be globalist. And I was like, all right, fuck you.
there's two things about that speech. Not only that was the I'm a black man wearing the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? And then also the maybe it's a good thing I don't understand these like very complicated issues. And it's just
Well,
like,
that's
oh,
very
then you
ignorant.
educate
That's very
yourself.
ignorant. That's so basically the writers saying that a black man being ignorant of political issues that may affect him is potentially a good thing. That's
Well, yeah.
totally not racist at all.
Yeah, and then yeah, the frustration for me too is like there's a narrative like serving with military veterans too, like plenty of Black Americans, like they're told, from some of their family members, like, oh, why are you going to fight a white man's war? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? They already fucking know, dude. When they put on the uniform and they serve, they already fucking know, like, kind of like the patchy history, but then they decide to become a part of it anyways, and it's a volunteer choice to make the world a better place. And so for me to have that be like, oh, the history of what's evil in the United States is so haunting that like anybody who wears the uniform should have this like giant moral reckoning with all of the sins of America. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this isn't 1966. This is fucking 2000 fucking 20, you goddamn assholes. But, whatever. Uh, maybe that's my white privilege showing.
Yep.
If only we had our Irishman here. He's technically an oppressed minority.
Well,
I'm
no, we've
fucking
got
I'm ethnically Irish, but like, come on.
So am I. So,
well, I was about to say Ninja is ginger. We could all just poke fun of him.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Wait, are you a ginger or a daywalker? There's a difference.
I'm a soulless ginger.
So
Yeah.
you got the freckles and pale skin and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you're a ginger. Got it. All right. Because I don't know what's worse, a filthy daywalker or a filthy ginger. I don't know.
Well, I got red in my beard, and I can be outside for more than 15 minutes without sunburning, so I might be a day walker.
You
Oh my
hacking bitch.
god. Oh my god.
Jake, let's
They
point and laugh at these two. So to bring it all the way back to Hammer and Bolter, it's now Old Baelai and Ninja. You want to lead this one because you've got some things to say.
Oh, I got shitloads to say. Somebody else take it, otherwise I'll rant for 4 minutes.
Well, Jake, you said this was like your favorite one, right?
Yeah, it is. It is my favorite one. So it's basically you have these two orcs lower on the pecking order. They're about to eat a
grot.
Like grot, yeah, a little grot. Then is he the boss? He's not the boss, is he?
No, he's a boss.
Yeah,
he's like a weird boy, and I forget what I think he's called like a rustler or something like that. I forget what the name is. But yeah, Runtherd. Yeah, so he's actually in charge of the Gretchen. He's an orc who's in charge of the Gretchen.
Okay, so he comes along, stops them, then sits them down and says that in order for them to be good orcs, they needs to have a proper enemy. and then the orcs go over whether they be the beakies, the pointy ears,
which are the Eldar.
Yeah, and then like I believe did they reference the Tyranids as well?
No, they just said the beakies or the knife ears.
Yeah, the beakies or the knife ears. And he goes, no,
it's fast and stabby.
Let me tell you the story of old Baelai. And then he
Umi.
Not just any Umi. And then it transitions into an orc talking about history of the Warhammer universe and about how Gazkul Uruk Thraka's eternal rivalry with Commissar Sebastian Y.A.R.P.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns into what is essentially a Saturday morning cartoon for orcs, and it's great, and I love it.
And if it wasn't more PowerPointy, I would love it as much as you do. Like literally, if they animated the action scenes to be more actiony, I actually would have been happy with the episode.
So Slur, if he was actually here, he kind of explained it. It's like it's got that motion comic feeling to it instead of just trying to be like like an actual cartoon.
But I want to see Tempestus Scions doing Tempestus Scion shit. How fucking hard is that?
Same as a guard lover. I'm like, no, you have the Tempestus Scions right in front of me. I want to see them shoot their hot shot lasers.
Dude, yeah, I'm sorry.
I absolutely loved it because it's like, okay, so this is history given to us by an orc, which was a lot more coherent than I thought it would be, which is actually a thumbs up.
Yeah, so what was off-putting about it to me at first, because this was actually the first episode that they released, so a lot of people were super pissed when it came out because one, the animation quality was super low. It was basically a PowerPoint presentation at times, and then two, it was funny, and I don't think a lot of people were ready for funny, and I know for a fact I wasn't. But the more that I kind of like watched it and like after rewatching it a couple of times and kind of appreciating it overall, it actually is cool to take a break from random violence in the 40K universe and to actually like allow something to be a little bit deeper. So for instance, like I'm used to orcs being complete illiterate numbskulls who are charging across the battlefield in order to come crump. But the truth is that they build vehicles, they build guns, they organize clothing, they have some level of logistics to support WAs. They do get into space and all that kind of stuff. And that would take a higher level of communication than I'm used to seeing orcs portrayed as. And as a result, it actually became relatively refreshing to see orcs portrayed in like a more sophisticated manner than they're normally portrayed.
I lost my shit when I found out their big goal was perpetuated by Gazkul was the big wog, and I'm like, the big wog.
Yeah.
So
the great wog, the great wog in the sky. It's their perpetual war.
The prophet of Gork and Mork. One is brutally cunning, and the other one is cunning but brutal, and the other is brutal but cunning. So the same fucking thing.
So, I that was very interesting. What you said, the idea that they got into this not expecting funny, and I think that that throws me for a loop, because when I see orcs in 40K, I do nothing but expect funny. But I think that might
They're
be
the only ones having a good time.
I think that might be the ship poster in me, because of just all because one of the first things that got me into 40K was Space Marine. So just seeing an orc just go Space Marines, and then
Classic.
the second the episode started, and they're trying to just eat the little they're trying to eat the grot, and they're just talking about, like, you gotta get proper enemy. It's just, I was just smiling ear to ear, because it's like, yeah, I'm just having a good time. it's the boys right there.
Yeah, I wasn't relaxed enough for it the first time, because what I wanted was, I wanted Tempestus Ions landing from a Valkyrie, room clearing into like a tunnel system, and basically like a shot for shot reshoot of the Aliens movie, but set in the 40K universe with Tyranids and like Tempestus Ions. That's what I wanted, and instead I got old Baelai. So, like, it was a little jarring.
Fair.
And I don't know. I also really appreciated the presentation of it was also was pretty good. Like a lot of the music was just kind of like hard rock in a lot of ways, because it's the orcs. And I really did like that.
Well, it also did show off just the vibe of the heavy metal album cover that 40K can be at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's fun, no doubt.
Animation wise, I there's a lot of bad animation in this, and yet I would also say it's probably their best animated, which is, it's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Well, when you said the storyboard comic animation, I get exactly what you're saying. And I appreciate that, but basically I think a lot of people, the reason why we were so pissed as 40K fans is because they shut down Sodaz. They shut down absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
They shut down Astartes. So if you're going to shut down those studios, then you need to, and like all Sodaz and absolutely nothing we're doing, they were using SFM, which is like a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
animation software. So the graphics suck, but you can still create compelling stories. So to have something that has mediocre stories, maybe slightly above average stories, but then worse animation from a 20-year-old fucking like SFM, like 3D animated animation fucking thing. Like, dude, why are we paying you $6 a month? Because you destroyed the fan animation shit. And I think that's why everybody was so pissed.
Oh, in fact, yeah, I'm no one. I don't know if I brought this up before we started recording. The fact that they canceled TTS to make all this stuff, I'll always be better. I'll maybe throw it up on stream. I literally kit bashed Trajan Valoris into looking like Kitten from TTS, because it's like, I wanted to pay tribute to the character that got me into Warhammer.
I just got into TTS like after I had watched, I think, right after after I first watched Hammer and Bolter, at least those first like 3 or 4 episodes. I absolutely fucking love it. It's amazing. I'm very upset that it got discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
I even watched like The Emperor Has a Podcast, which is also really funny and has a lot of great jokes, like the Emperor and Rogel Dorn debating on if it should be Taco Friday or Taco Tuesday.
and then the fact that the animation was awful, kind of on purpose.
I was like what, a couple people doing it?
Well,
and they're just like moving around the frames and making it a little slapsticky and almost like South Parky in a way. Yeah, that's fine, because the point is the comedy in the guts of the show. This isn't like an official fucking studio. This is six assholes on the internet. So that's again, that just kind of rams home I think a lot of people's frustration.
Yeah,
I
and
like
then
how the other
with
custodies are the pillar men.
and then also, let's not forget the fact that Astartes was made by one fucking guy, and he had the dream come true of being hired by Games Workshop. But as far as we're all concerned, he's literally locked in a room with a gun pointed at him, saying, "You will not work."
Yeah, and I literally think like it would be one thing if they came out and they said the Horus Heresy trailer is excellent. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's great.
So yeah, so if they literally said, "Hey, Siame Peterson is working on Astartes 2, but this Horus Heresy trailer that we just released, which is like some of the best 40K related violence that you've seen in forever, this was his project. So, stay tuned for more Siame Peterson. This is part of what you're paying for." Or if they said like, "Oh, he was part of the Chaos Gate Demon Hunters trailer, which is also excellent and excellently animated." And they're like, "Oh, he was like a huge chunk of this, but then we outsourced some of the parts to other creators." Then I would be like, okay, they're using him, they're creating good stuff, they're using it for marketing, which I think is a little fucked up. But as long as Astartes 2 is on the way, and as long as, they'll use him for both original content and um original content, and they're going to use him for marketing, I don't really care as long as this dude is still working and kind of like living his dream, creating Warhammer IP. If that was the case, I wouldn't give a fuck. But literally, they are so muted behind NDAs that we don't know what's going on. So we don't know if he's responsible for Chaos Gate. We don't know if he's responsible for the Horus Heresy. We don't fucking know, and that also pisses me off.
Yeah, and it's just like my local GW shop actually had, like, it has an opening, and I asked him like, "Oh, what's going on? What would be needed for that?" And I think the guy was just honest. He was like, "You would like, I know you talk about this kind of stuff. You wouldn't be able to talk anymore about it."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "No, I won't do it then," because it's one of those like what if scenarios. Like, oh, Disney gives you X amount of dollars, but you can't criticize their work anymore. It's like, no, I will not be silenced on this.
Yeah.
and that's the peak of frustration when it comes to GW is just like I feel like we would be a lot happier with them as a company if they were just like a little bit more transparent, and if they weren't constantly going to war with their community over IP. But they just seem hell bent on doing it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do for them.
Yeah, they
They
real
created such a fucking cool universe. It's
and
very frustrating.
and that's kind of the weird thing, because like GW themselves is, they're kind of turning woke, and yet that's somehow not affecting 40K in the slightest.
Oh,
Like
I
think
love that. I
like
love
I
that. Oh, dude, do you want to jump ahead to the fucking Cadia Stands episode?
well well we actually I want Ninja to make some points on old Bailey, but first the
What do
like
you want to know?
well, I showed you that and you did not like it.
I did not care for it. No, I think part of it, Counterpoints already brought up with the. I was also pissed that like there was that specific scene where he's talking about the planet and he's like he took it over, then we took it back, then he took it back again, and it's like they skipped all those cool action sequences. And you hit the nail on the head. It's like I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see it, even if it was just a brief sequence, a few shots, something. It
Right.
would have been nice to see, especially being somebody who's new and who's trying to dive into the lore. It's like I hate that they just kept skipping shit for the sake of a joke. And then you add to that there was, this sort of really shitty animation. And I was like, okay, so I'm not super engaged by the narrative. I'm also not really super engaged by the animation either. It's like, what am I here for then?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't
And
really mind the whole like, and they took it and then we took it back bit, because I don't know, that was I found that to be pretty funny.
well, I was about to bring up how like just that sequence alone kind of shows just a lot of the charm with the orcs, and they took it back, the slap of the Imperial Aquila, It's like, and then we took it back, and then just the green square, and then the Zog off.
Yeah, because like it's like because like I said, it's history told by orcs.
And
Yeah,
when
but
they,
if it, yeah, but if it,
you're
but
not
if we
familiar with that
saw,
history.
yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of what I was going at. It was like I realized I thought just the general vibe would be enough for the introduction, and it's like, oh wait, no, if the vibe isn't enough, like, because it's more to it than just that. 40K is more than just a general vibe of
That
let's
is
blow
true.
some shit up.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I personally wasn't bothered to by that bit, but
okay, so I understand how it could be charming, but it's only going to be charming to people who already know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And that's like, um that's another thing where like I sympathize for the people who are coming in new. I've been reading this shit for 20 fucking years or whatever. And there's still fights between people who supposedly know what they're talking about, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because the universe is so big that there's differences of opinion on things that GW has purposefully not settled because it creates interest and controversy and mystery. But for me, if I was coming into this universe, like, so for instance, like, I hate to compare it to other episodes, I was so much more loving artifacts. Artifacts was awesome.
wait, that wasn't
I
with the Chaos Marines, right?
It was the
yes.
one with the Chaos Marines and the Drukari and the Necrons. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was like, it was not animated as well as I wanted it to be animated, and they made some fucking cheap fucking cuts here and there. But from a narrative standpoint, sucking people in, introducing people to weird facets of the universe, giving you a cool like a cool thing to kind of wrap your head around and kind of think about after the piece was done, and also showing you cool characters that you might be interested in learning about more after the show's done. I just think they like nailed it, like 10 out of 10 across the board.
Well,
And,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and so and so to compare that to the rest of the shit they did, it's kind of like, ugh, like, why couldn't you just like kind of formulaically take these features that work and repeat them elsewhere?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of episodes where that are super not newcomer friendly, like Garden of Ghosts,
I
which is the
love
Oh,
Eldar.
Garden of Ghosts too.
that's
I
the
Garden of
hated it
Ghosts.
Eldar
at
one, right?
first.
That's the
Yeah.
Eldar one, right?
Yes.
First time I
So
saw it, I hated it, and then when it was done, I actually loved it.
I like the story behind Garden of Ghosts. The problem is if I showed so Slur and I were explaining some things to Jake while he was watching it. But if Slur and I had just said if we had said nothing, Jake, you probably would have
Mommy
been
needs to
confused
tell.
you would have been
All right, I'll be
confused
right
out of
back,
your
guys.
mind.
I would have been like, oh, okay, so these must be the Eldar people. Okay, so then what's the big giant flaming thing? What's that about?
And then
And
the fact
then
he's seeing the past.
yeah, like why he's tripping balls and seeing the past, then he finds a rock with the spirit of his mom on it. Then he puts it on a robot and the robot is now his mom. Oh, okay. All right. That's nice. What the fuck was that?
Well, it's because a lot of these episodes are just another day in the life of the 41st millennium, and it's like, for somebody like me who knows what's going on, that's really interesting, but to newcomers, this means nothing. That's why, like, some people would say, like, oh, Space Marine is a good introduction to 40K. It's kinda not, because you don't really know what a Space Marine is. You don't really understand what a manufactorum is, because the whole story is that the orcs are trying to steal a titan from a manufactorum. And it's like, and they even say, like, oh, we could just exterminatus the planet. No one knows, like, a normal fan would not know what that means.
Are you wait, a normal fan of 40K or just a normal fan of games?
I'm sorry, just a normal person. I didn't mean a normal
Okay.
fan. A normal
Because
fan,
like a
yeah,
normal
we'd
fan
know.
of 40K would know
So-
about Exterminatus.
No, a new person would not know what that means. And
It's like a normal fan of Star Wars wouldn't know who Kyle Katarn is.
how dare you?
I said a normal fan. You're not a
no.
normal fan.
Shut your mouth. But it's like how with the next episode, like Fangs is just like the initiation ceremony of some space wolves, and it's some the older Marines kind of observing as they go through their trials, And again,
Yeah.
we had to explain it to you. We had to explain
Mhm.
like, oh, that's them just going over the blizzards of Fenris, and it's like, oh, that's them fighting that type of monster on a death world. Like, that's
Are we
not
on
necessarily.
Fangs?
Yeah,
I do like
I'm
how the
talking.
planet is called Fenris for the space Vikings. I like
Yeah.
that.
So the point I was more trying to get across, Connor, while you were away, was a lot of these episodes are super not newcomer friendly, because a
Mhm.
lot of these are just another day in the universe with like fangs, or in the case of in the Garden of Ghosts. If Slur and I were not explaining this stuff to Jake, he would not know what the fuck was happening.
No,
Yeah, and
my
I think you gotta so there's a point that could be good, right?
Yes.
So the point that could be good is, for instance, like in the Garden of Ghosts, if you were like, oh, these elves, like everybody else seems to just be dudes, but these elves seem to have like female warriors and they're dressed differently. And they talk about the echoes of a god, and they mention like Kazamense Kane or whatever. Like if that's going to cause you, from curiosity, like looking at the violence, to go, okay, there's like a lot here. Let me start pulling on threads and go onto the wiki and just start reading. That could be good, but you can't do that every fucking time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's kind of what drives me fucking crazy. And then like Fangs too. For Fangs, that was so uncomfortable for me trying to figure out, like, are these neophytes? Are these space marines? Do they have gene seed? Do they not have gene seed? What the fuck is going on? Because like they don't have any black carapace, they don't have any of like the things for power armor. They're not scouts because they're like doing the initiation. But then you literally have this dude doing like 60-yard gorilla swings through the fucking air in order to stab a bat in the back. And I'm like, there's no way a normal I don't care if you're the biggest swinging dick on fucking Fenris. There's no way you're gorilla swinging from fucking tree to tree to stab a fucking,
yeah,
60-foot long bat in the back. Like, fuck you. That's not
yeah,
happening.
your
So the
average
first time that was
human.
jarring for me. And I've been reading about Space Marines for 30 fucking years, you know?
Yeah, and not to mention, it's like in turn, normal humans can barely do that much in the 41st millennium in the first place. It's a outstanding achievement that Yarick decapitated that orc, because
Orc.
that's something only Space Marines can do for the most part.
Right.
I firmly ascribe to the theory that the reason why Yarick has survived this long and so many injuries is because of the
Orc
orcs.
belief.
Yeah, the orc belief. Like they think he's immortal or almost unkillable, so
Therefore he
therefore,
is.
yeah,
I mean, that is the
that's one
reason why
reason why.
that is
Yeah,
why he has his laser eye. Like, it's just a
that
normal eye.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another reason why I love the orcs. They've weaponized being retarded, and I love it.
Yeah, what was it? Yeah, there was like this one story, and it's been on TikTok a few times, where the orcs are facing like Imperial Guard company, and the Imperial Guard company is
Yeah.
down to their last people, and so they run out of ammo. So instead of they're like, what do we do now? And then they just start making bang noises with their guns, and then orcs like start like fucking dying, like they instantaneously die from getting shot from because they believe they're being shot. And then the only way that like this Imperial Guard regiment literally just keeps doing it, and they keep killing orcs. And then the only way that the orcs like fucking overcome the Imperial Guard company is like four of them get together and they go like, I'm a tank, I'm a tank,
I'm a
I'm a
tank. I'm
tank,
a
I'm a
tank. I'm a
tank.
tank. I'm a tank. I love that story. And because so many people believe that story, it is canon now.
Yeah, so there's just like there's little shit like that that's just so fucking funny and makes the universe so fun while it's being like gross and weird and fucked up and violent. Um But yeah,
And
but not everybody's going to go to Wikipedia, guys. Like at
yeah,
some point you can't just tell, you also have to show, and
that
that's
is
frustrating.
that
Yeah.
is true.
And while you were gone, you recommend. I think it was you recommended Space Marine to newcomers. I
2012. Yeah.
I I I almost kind of want to push slightly back on that, but that's almost because it
Compared to
has
what?
this.
I'm not saying it's a
That's
good
the
jump off point. I'm saying
that's
compared
the
to what else would you tell them to jump into?
I would almost see that is ultimately the true issue. I would almost say Mechanicus, but you're never explained who the AdMech is.
Is it kind of the same issues with comics and like where do you jump on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
but
even if you're at an issue number 1, sometimes they don't even explain what's going on. Because in issue
Oh,
number
you
1,
can never trust number ones these days. Number ones are just there to like, oh, it's number one, even though it's following off of this series, it's still a number one.
yeah,
yeah,
but the point being is like you so for instance, like what episode are we actually on? Like are we still on we did all BLI, what was the next one?
Fangs.
we're on Fangs now.
Yeah, so for Fangs, like what's notable that's actually good about it is I didn't like that they had the little weird chess game or whatever. I didn't care. I didn't give a fuck about like 3 random veterans talking shit about like the new generation and this that the other. I literally couldn't care less. And then the neophytes hunting I actually did think was interesting because they described them differently. They said one of them was a runt. They said one of them was like fierce. They said one of them was like, I don't know, average or some shit. And basically the fierce one, he if I remember correctly, the fierce one bit off more than he could chew. Like he went after the bat, and because he went after the bat, he actually had a lot of success, and he was very physically, he had a lot of prowess physically, but because he was too foolhardy, he basically got himself killed. Then the runt or whatever, the runt of the litter, he was actually doing pretty good, and he was pretty intelligent when the way he engaged that polar bear. Like he got down into the cave, confronted the polar bear chases him, he gets behind, like he hides, then he shanks it, then I think then he jumps down like a cliff in order to escape it, and then he like stabs it again in a way that would like blind it, and then finally he crushes it with a rock. So that actually showed like a lot of like creativity and ingenuity where he wasn't taking the threat head on. He was being creative and intelligent because he's a runt, so he's used to surviving. So I actually thought that was cool that that's the way that they described it, and it was kind of a shame that the larger polar bear showed up and killed him, but that also kind of speaks to the brutality of Fenris and the brutality of the 40K universe, where even if you're super smart and you play the game as best you can, that doesn't mean that you're gonna win. And that's one of the cool things about 40K is you're not always gonna win. And then the guy who drowns, it's kind of like subverting expectations. Oh, he drowns, killing this dire wolf or whatever, which is cool. But at the same time, like, why did he resuscitate? Was it because he is gene enhanced or whatever, or not? And that's kind of where not knowing how enhanced these neophytes or acolytes were, that was frustrating for me because I wasn't even enjoying the piece. I was trying to figure out how enhanced these humans were. But on second and third rewatching, these little notes are the things that I appreciated about it.
I was going.
And on a side note, dire wolves are actually not wolves. Thank you.
So
Yeah, they're like humans
in terms of
evolved.
the Space Wolf gene ritual, I believe these guys are enhanced because one of the rituals is once you get one of your implants, they do just chuck you into the wild of Fenris and expect you to
Yeah, but
survive.
the Trials of Mordecai, they talk about it at the end. They're like, "Oh, tomorrow the Trials of Mordecai truly begin," or whatever. That's the one where you drink something that basically like activates all of your implants and could potentially turn you into a wolfen, and then it's your job to make it back to the fortress, and they just dump you in the wild. So like this is, but that's where it seemed like there was a little bit of confusion even with like Space Wolf players in my shit where they didn't know like where the implant process is. And I'm like, dude, like, if your own faction's players can't tell you, that means that you went too deep, right? You need to pull up a little bit and explain a little.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked.
Yeah, like
Like,
literally, I've been taking a look at Space Marines. I've been looking at Space Marine lore and Space Marine models for 30 fucking years, and on a first viewing, if I can't tell you what's going on, that's a fucking problem.
Some tells me that this Warhammer Plus is only made for the people who are only into Warhammer, or who are already into Warhammer.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's why they're
I
not having a lot of success with it, because they basically fucked over their fan base, and their fan base is the only people who would be interested in it in the first place because they're not making it accessible.
I would say before doing your own streaming stuff, why not like make something that's a little bit more quote unquote accessible to newcomers and release it like on Netflix or Hulu or something.
I would
That would make
argue
too much sense.
they've already tried and it failed, because I was about to point out the Ultramarine movie, which Jake, one day I will show you, but it's something that
There's
even
an
Games Workshop.
Ultramarine movie.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yes,
bad.
and it's so bad that Games Workshop disavowed it.
It's pretty bad.
Was this before or after Matt Ward?
I think
Or
it was
during?
during.
Oh,
During
during.
fuck.
Oh,
Hold
if it was
on.
during,
Let,
then Jesus
let me.
Christ.
I will quickly Google. Ninja for context, Matt, and for the audience, Matt Ward was a writer at Games Workshop who basically was so obsessed with Ultramarines that he's what established them being Gary Stews for the longest fucking time.
Yeah.
And then I think that there have been efforts to like where they took their kind of reputation and made that a fault. I think in recent years.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
was a
There has been an attempt to make uh their pride one of their flaws.
Yeah,
And
because
so
wasn't it like when Gilliman, when he was resurrected, like he kind of looked at him and he was just kind of like, "Oh wow, the Codex Astartes was kind of a mistake."
yeah, although I would argue with Gilliman myself, on that. Basically like you did need some level of organization, but everybody in the fucking 40K universe is such a fucking autist that of course they take it to the fucking 50th degree. So that's not really his fault for being like, hey, here's some rules to try to get us all on the same page and fighting coherently, and also prevent a new horse heresy from occurring. And then over 10,000 years, everybody becomes fucking autistic about it. That's not surprising.
Yeah, poor Gilliman.
And
Yeah.
then the Alpha Legion just using the book against them, because when you write down all of your tactics, then the enemy could just look at the book and then counter
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of more of a so I'm not like particularly religious, but I am like a deist or whatever. So I keep hearing you guys being like, "Oh, these poor atheist motherfuckers who were trying to usher in like a new millennium of like secular enlightenment." And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck these guys. They fucking bumped into demons and they pretended they didn't exist." Like
I I'm
so
more
so so my view's a little bit more like the emperor through apotheosis should become the human god of order and then try to
mhm.
fight the chaos gods, and that actually should be the like, instead of like, oh, I'm only a god because you made me a god and I hate that you foisted this responsibility onto me. I feel like he should just lean into it, like, yep, you guys made me a god, so now I'm a god now, so let's lean into it and kick the shit out of these motherfuckers.
I prefer the Greyfax method, which was like the Greyfax, and then it's one of the Custodes, who they were both like, we've seen the power of these people, of both either Celestine or the Emperor himself, uh,
Hmm.
and even like it's like you were one of the Emperor's uh, closest guardians and advisors. It's like, yes, but I have seen him upon the Golden Throne. My armor is scarred by his power. If
Hmm.
like that would convince anyone. And then seeing everything that Celestine has done, who Celestine acted like a second Astronomicon for the
Yeah.
ship. Uh,
Yeah,
Miracle and
and BD Sabat from the Gaunt's Go series. Like, I don't know how you're losing a battle against like Traitor Guard or whatever, and then a like floating angelic woman shows up in the battlefield in armor and just starts slicing through fucking heretics, turns the tide of the battle and allows you to win. And whenever you're in her physical presence, you basically feel like a sliver of like heavenly euphoria. I don't know how you stay an atheist in the presence of like a living saint. And
yeah,
so that
Wait,
was actually one of
did
the
that happen in 30K? Did that happen in
It happened in
30K?
40K. That was
Oh,
Gaunt's Ghost series. It's a
well,
Imperial Guard regiment.
well then in 40K they would still not be. They wouldn't have been atheists then, wouldn't they?
there's some, like, Inquisitors are allowed to be a tiny bit atheist, because some places still practice the Imperial truth.
Okay,
Yeah, and
but like
actually, Space
atheism can't
Marines.
exist in this world. It doesn't make sense for atheism to exist when actual gods exist.
Yeah, and that's actually the irony of like a lot of the Space Marines. Allegedly, a good chunk of the Space Marines, like some of them have moved on and they've just in engaged in the cult of the Emperor or whatever, and now they're like, zealous devotees of the God Emperor. But a lot of them have held on to the Imperial truth, basically saying like the God Emperor is not actually a god. He's powerful and he's the cornerstone of our universe, and we revere him and this, that, the other, but he's not literally a god. And they actually like kind of hold on to that like jealously and angrily, where they just view everybody else as a bunch of dumbass fucking monkeys for worshiping the emperor. But that's like, to me that almost makes less sense than, you know kind of like what I said, like the apotheosis, uh you become a god through worship. So at this point, the imperial cult is more true than the imperial truth.
Right, and then also from a meta sense, the Sisters of Battle perform literal miracles in the name of the Emperor. But
Right.
he, he is a god, whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah, at least in any historical connotation of the way that we understand gods, where like if you look at like the Greco-Roman like myth stuff, they're eternal forces that represent virtues that continue to exist, like long after mortal men die. Like if you were to take like the Greco-Roman pantheistic perspective, he's a god. And then if you were to take like the creator Abrahamic like god, he's not. But he can become a god of order because he's competing with these other forces. And so that really just kind of like boils down the definition of God. Do you mean like the fundamental creative force of the entirety of the universe, or do you mean eternal forces of which can become more powerful through your worship or through your desistance of worship? And
Well, I mean,
so, yeah,
even then,
sorry,
if
good.
you want to get even more broader, depending on what even franchise, God could range from what you're describing to, or, for example, in the Godzilla series, Mothra is a god, but she's by no means omnipotent, omniscient, a creator, or anything like that.
She's just a force of nature.
She's typically described as a goddess of quote unquote reincarnation. That's just because like every time she comes out, she lays an egg, and then she gets
Uh-huh.
killed by Godzilla most of the time.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's yeah, but then yeah, so that would kind of fall into the Greco-Roman
Representing,
perspective
yeah, okay,
of a perpetual force.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's actually like, for me, that's fine. That's a definition that is in line with some religious traditions. You know.
well, even then, even going with then, like King Caesar, Megalon, and Batra don't really have anything they represent, but they're considered gods, so that's weird.
Yeah, well, the Roman emperor, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but the Roman emperors were considered to be like to do apotheosis upon death, which means that because of their like great station or whatever, and what they did for the empire and being a part of the this, that, or the other or whatever, they were literally thought to, when they die, they become a part of the polytheistic pantheon.
Oh, okay. So they like when we die, we become gods. Yo, it's great.
Yeah, it's like you guys go live in the fucking dirt because you're fucking mud people and you probably don't have an afterlife, but we do because we're so powerful and we're so important to the Roman institution that we literally like we will go join the eternal forces of the universe because we were a part of the Roman Empire.
And it turns out, jokes on you, we're actually Mormon.
I appreciate the South Park reference.
Yes, I just love that. Like it's like, oh yeah, oh wait,
Mormonism was the correct answer.
yeah, yeah. And then
everybody's like, "Ah!"
did they has God made an appearance on South Park in like recent
Yeah.
times?
Yeah, he's a giant alligator bear
Yeah, he's a weird bear
lion
thing, but I'm trying
creature.
to remember the last time he was on South Park.
The last time he was on out like that I remember he was on South Park was like Satan's Sweet 16. I think that was
Yes.
the one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
And then
god.
and then the time prior to that was when Stan didn't know what a clit was. And so like he comes down to Earth in order to answer one question, and then Stan asks what the clit is, and everybody's so fucking mad.
Wait, that's the movie, right? No, wait, that's when they
Maybe it's not a clit. Maybe he was like, "Oh, why haven't I gotten my period yet?" or
yeah,
something like that.
something like that. Yeah, it was when it was the Y2K episode, I believe.
Yeah. So
Oh Jesus, Satan's Sweet 16 was like season 8. Jesus fuck, it's been a long time.
which is hilarious because like honestly after season 13 I kind of stopped watching it. I fucking
I kept up until the pandemic episodes, the pandemic
yeah.
specials. They're actually pretty good.
Except post COVID, which is now on an entirely separate streaming service.
That's why. That's why. See, Wyatt, I will lend you my ship. You can let down the sails and ride the ocean of freedom to your treasure.
Yeah, but my internet actively, my ISP like actively like acknowledges when I do that shit, and will be like,
That's why
hey,
you have a VPN.
the VPNs will actively turn off when they know you're doing that shit.
Oh well, I do it anyway. So I downloaded an episode of Book of Boba Fett for a stupid fucking meme that I made, and fucking Disney like contacted my internet service provider and said, by the way, you've done this," and then like, okay, so I need to go to this thing, blah 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 dot copyright, and I need to do this thing. It wouldn't let me do it, and like I haven't done it, and I haven't gotten anything. We still have our internet. I just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Dude, I literally I record shit with OBS all the fucking time, and I
Oh
do
yeah,
commentary all the time. And whenever
same.
whenever they fucking copyright strike me, I literally challenge their shit in YouTube, and they're so fucking lazy and so busy that they never maintain their copyright
Well,
strikes.
I'm not even talking about like the copyright strike. I'm talking about like I pirated an episode of Book of Boba Fett. Disney themselves contacted they got my SP. They contacted my internet service provider, and they fucking said they were gonna like, it's like, oh, do this and that. I'm just like, okay, we'll just do this. Typing on computer. No, nothing. Okay, and then nothing's come of it. And I also I still need to watch Spider-Man No Way Home.
You're probably not high up on the fucking
On the
arrest / fuck over list.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, like, I have like only like 1.6 something K subs, and I do qualify for monetization, although I didn't get approved because I looked back on my channel. I'm like, oh, so all these videos, right? This is what they were talking about. I wish they would have fucking told me, but there we go. I do like it how it's like the reused content. Okay, which content? So I can rectify it. No.
We're getting kind of in terms of overall watch hours, we're kind of getting up there for monetization, but then subscriber numbers, we haven't met that number yet.
Once you get that first 1,000, it took me like a decade to get 1,000 subs.
Yeah, it's it is logarithmic though. So for instance, like I got 10K in 2 years, and then I got 15K in 9 months.
Wow.
So and by 15K in 9 months, I mean I'm now at 25. And so basically, I think it's one of those things that like you gotta push the boulder, you gotta push the
Yeah,
rock,
you just gotta
like
keep
up
doing
the
it.
hill.
You are Sisyphus.
Yeah, and so this is actually a real challenge. Like I probably only want to hang out for like another 10 or 15 because I do have to go do some shit. But the what I was gonna say is it's a pain in the ass, but it's super fun. I would do this for free, but I'm happy that I don't have to do this for free. And um, basically, what I would say is the problem is you have to choose content that does algorithmically well, and then you just have to bang that drum over and over and over again. And if you try to be creative, the algorithm fucks you, and that sucks
That does suck.
because you're pigeonholed into like the algorithm likes this, do this, and if you do anything else, we're gonna fuck you. And so that, unfortunately, that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I got 25K off of kind of doing whatever the fuck I wanted to when I wanted to, and now the algorithm is saying like you can't anymore, or else we're gonna fuck you.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
It's like, what's that? You want to go in autistic detail about why this season of a children's show is bad? Well, no, you have to talk about Star Wars.
That's the thing. Like,
Dude, that's actually it. Yes, that's actually literally it. Like, it wants me to only talk about Warhammer and only Warhammer, and if I leave Warhammer, it's gonna tell me to fuck myself.
I have this little short video talking about like the consumer mentality, and I'm like use Star Wars as an example that I'm kind of working on as a smaller one, specifically. Because it's the topic I want to talk about, and I use Star Wars as the example because it's like, I don't know, maybe I could get like 50 people to watch this in a short period of time.
Yeah. Well, and
Well,
yeah, you always have to have a launch point or a reference for people to like. It always has to refer to something else. If you're just like these are my ideas, then it's not going to
yeah,
be as popular as if you couch it in something else.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And it's like Ninja, you constantly like go like, no, Star Wars is just dead, let it go. And it's like, I would love to. The internet kind of won't let it though.
No,
You look
Star
on
Wars will.
all sorts of social media.
We'll
Somebody's
be
talking about Star
parading
Wars.
Star Wars corpse fucking 50 years.
I mean, like, it's also one reason why I might consider reviewing She-Hulk when it comes out, just because it's like, oh fuck it, why not, right? Because I'm reading through the comic currently, and I'm like, fuck it, let's do this.
Yeah, let's swallow the trash. That's the good news though, is that the algorithm or whatever, it likes love, but it also promotes hate as well because it views any press as good press. So basically, like you can like even if you hate this shit, you can capitalize off of people hating it. So
It's also one reason why I continue to still talk about Ruby, despite it, like, I don't know. I have the same relationship with Ruby as Wyatt does with Star Wars, basically.
mm.
Well, well, that's kind of the whole thing about the channel is that we kind of we did kind of just try to do the Y.A.R.P thing for a while and just constantly spurging out on things we hated. And Ninja, when was it when we kind of just said we're done getting like massive headaches every time we have a conversation?
Yeah, every time you talk, yeah.
Yeah, I said it because I was tired of like I unlike you and Jake, I am not fueled by anger, and it's like working 6 days a week. I did not want to spend the entirety of my weekend just being actively pissed off because you have all that sort of energy expended when you watch the terrible thing and you get that initial reaction of it, and then you have potentially hours of just dissecting it and talking about it, and you just reach a point where you're like, I can't. I'm done. I don't care.
I
Especially when
talk
you're watching like a video of somebody who's just trying to defend this shit and their arguments are so flimsy and so weak. It's like you can't even counter their argument because their argument is basically non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how we were with Inglorious Bastards. This movie is bad because it didn't end Nazis, and it's like, what the
In
fuck?
IRL. Like that was literally his fucking argument is it's like because it didn't end Nazis in real life, it's bad movie. And it's like
I don't really think Nazis are gonna go away anytime soon. They'll dwindle to like.
it's an
even
idea. It's not
yeah.
going away.
Yeah.
Like you can't kill an idea. Sorry. Sucks to suck, but I mean that's how it is.
And then there's like me. I have incredible difficulty explaining why something is good. I don't know what it is, but I struggle immensely to explain why something's good. But by God, tell me why something's bad, and oh boy, I will get out my surgery kit, crank up my autism level to maximum, and I will tell you in explicit detail, and whether you want me to or not.
I can talk about good things. The problem that I have is I lean a little too hard on the comparison argument, especially when we were talking about Hunter x Hunter. I was comparing the little needle inside Killua's head to the inhibitor chip in Clone Wars, which is inherently a stupid plot line. It's like, that's just like, you can't praise something just because it's not the bad thing, because then you don't actually explain why a thing is good.
Yeah.
No, and I get that you guys are totally just, jazzed up and you can, run on hatred for hours on end, but I can't do that. Now that said, I understand that we are in, for better or worse, a culture war, and we need people to stand up and fight for good things. But that's why it's so important for me to find those good things and point them out and be like, look at this. Look at why this is so amazing. Please support this. Go watch this. Check this out. And this is why it's good. Because some people just genuinely don't know. I mean, how many people out there have probably never even heard of Everything Everywhere All at Once? Never even heard of it because it has such a small marketing budget. But they've heard of fucking Lightyear and Doctor Strange, which neither one is worthy of a fucking ticket price. And that's a shame.
I think the last movie I saw in theaters was The Northman. That was good.
Nice.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. You've warmed
fellas,
up to the Northman now?
I gotta jump in literally a minute. So you want to give me your next episode, and then I'll give you some thoughts before I dip.
Well, I was actually gonna say we could split this into a two-parter if you want. In this,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to run it next week too.
Well,
Awesome.
next week we might be finishing our Tarantino arc, where we be watching the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But then, I'll keep in touch more than anything.
Okay, perfect.
Would you like to plug your channel?
Yeah, so my name is Connor. I do run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I'm a science fiction political philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran. So if you're into 40K or anything else related to that, come check me out. We're about to break 25K. It was super fun. I do love talking shit about all of the things that we talked shit about today. And yeah, it was a blast. Looking forward to the next one.
I also did enjoy you on Sitch and Adam's show. You were very good on there.
Thank you. The audience is very divided. They either like me or they fucking hate me.
Now, if we could convince Adam and Sitch to debate Ninja and Max on StarCraft 2.
It will happen. We will, maybe not Adam, but we will get Sitch in debate mode eventually.
Yes, because StarCraft 2, with how little I've played it, the narrative is pretty decent.
Awesome.
And
well,
okay, Sitch is allowed to be wrong, but we appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to having you back.
Yeah. All right, let's do it soon. Catch y'all.
Yep.
You have a good day, Jake. Now you.
Okay, so you know who I am. I am the one who knocks, and when I knock,
Jake,
I bring
will hit
you
you
great
with a plate.
treats. I bring you great treats like crappy Rooster Teeth shows, children's shows about spandex-clad warriors of justice that come in multicolors, and Zack Snyder movies and Predator movies. I review them. The name is Jake the Surgeon. I spell surgeon wrong because I didn't know how to spell. Link in description.
And you know who Ninja and me are, because you're here.
Jake is the one who spurgs.
Yeah, exactly. The one who spurgs. Yeah.
By the time this will be out, I wonder if I'll finally have my solo channel finally up and running, because I'm making a video. I'm actually finally making the Why Can't Characters Just Do Their Jobs video, because I rewatched Astartes with Sarah, and I was like, oh, this is actually a perfect example, because the Space Marines in Astartes just do their job. And they're really good at it.
You know, actually tying this back to Ruby, there's this character that would have succeeded if she just did her job, but she didn't do her job, and the writers were, oh, see, if she just did her job, she would have been fine. Okay, you want to know what she does later after knowing this new information? She doesn't do her fucking job.